Welcome back to the Carpenter Shop. My name is Bucky. Today, let's talk about radicals and the day in which we live. I think radicals are pretty important, you know? So let's talk about them and maybe a little bit about what God says about them. All right? First of all, let's come up with a definition. So I went to Webster's. Here's the definition. Relating to or affecting the fundamental nature of something. It's far-reaching, though, and it's very thorough. There are three people in one story in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke who embody the definition of a radical. Before we go any further, allow me to offer this. Radicals are good people. Our country was founded that way. They make things happen. All too often, we think negatively of radicals. As with anything, purposes of any sort can be either positive or negative, depending on how you look at things. And sometimes, we don't know until after the smoke is cleared if it was a good thing or a bad thing. So let's talk about three radicals in the New Testament. Number one, Jesus Christ. He's the biggest radical who's ever born. He just encountered the demoniac in Gadara, who was not a surprise to him. It was an appointment. Jesus purposely went across the lake with his disciples in the middle of the night. Read it for yourself. In the middle of the night, to go to this man in Gadara who is demon-possessed. And what does Jesus do when he gets there? He delivers him. And, don't miss this, he makes him an evangelist. He says, go and tell what the Lord has done for you. So what qualified him as an evangelist? Not what? Who? Jesus set him free. That's good enough. At least Jesus thought so. So now we have returned, or they have returned from Gadara. And upon arrival, they are met right there at Capernaum at the seashore by an emerging radical. His name is Jairus. He's a temple official. Probably somebody like we would think of like a church administrator, okay? There's probably no one in the area more ensconced in strict Judaic life than Jairus. But he's got a problem. His little girl is sick. And she's not just sick with a cold or a flu or a virus. No. Not a stomach ache. No. She's dying. Jairus has got yet another problem. He's run out of options. You see, the people he works with at the temple, the Pharisees, the scribes, the Sadducees, all of those theocrats have failed him. Doctors have failed him. He's got nowhere to go. But word has spread about Jesus of Nazareth. By now, Jesus has fed the 5,000. He's healed the sick. He's certainly an option. But at what cost? Do you really think that those theocrats, not a good name for them, theocrats, are going to let him continue in his job at the temple? If he turns to Jesus? Probably not. But he's a daddy. And his little girl's sick. Radical number two. Now notice how Jesus meets Jairus. Take me to her. That's just very cool. He didn't say to him, now why are you coming to ask me for help? Or, me? You want my help? No, Jesus didn't do that. Jesus doesn't give Jairus any attitude at all. Just, come on, let's go. You see, Jesus knew Jairus' condition and his backstory. Now it's one radical walking with another. It's such a big deal. They are thronged in the street. Everybody wants to see what's going to happen next. And the next thing, nobody could have planned. You see, it's two radicals drawing a crowd, but there's a third radical. And she's fixing to show her hand. There's a woman who's been bleeding for more than a decade. She's desperate, a recurring theme. In their current Judaic life, now this is important. As a Jew in her life, she's an outcast. She's unclean. She can't be around others. See, the Hebrew law forbids it. You can read it for yourself in Leviticus 15. This means she had to care for herself all the time. No help from anyone. How does she get food or water? How does she earn a living? Because of the law, she is basically dead. But this radical will not be denied. If I could just touch the hem of his garment, not meet him, not send him an offering, not even ask him to pray for her. No. She just wanted to touch the hem of his garment. She is more than brave. Now, if she's discovered in the crowd, she faces death. She's to be stoned. The theocrats will stone her for making the entire crowd, including themselves, unclean. But this radical is on a mission. Somehow she makes it to him without being noticed. And she touches his garment and is healed instantly. And Jesus stops. He'd been waiting on this moment. I love it. And this isn't a surprise either. It's another appointment. Jesus was expecting her. Now he turns around and he asks a rhetorical question. Who touched me? Now I'm confident at that moment that the disciples thought Jesus was crazy. Can't you just hear him? Really? Who touched you? How about everybody in this street? No, Jesus is making a point. And he's going to throw the theocrats completely under the bus. Look at how he does it. The now clean radical woman says, "It was me." You see, her condition is not a secret. This is a small community. Everybody knows. People were careful not to be around her, especially those religious people. And now, Jesus lets the cat out of the bag. Publicly, your faith has healed you. She's been healed, and everyone in the crowd knows it's her. I love the way Jesus sets things up. And where's the outcry? Why don't we hear the religious people screaming? I mean, if their law is right, everyone is unclean. But what do we hear? Silence. Or as a friend of mine says, crickets. The hypocrisy of the theocrats is deafening. This radical just turned the whole town upside down by her well-placed radical faith in Jesus. And Jairus is doing the exact same thing. Word comes that his little girl has died. What was Jairus thinking at that moment? I have risked everything. My life, my livelihood, my family, my reputation. I've placed all of it in Jesus, with Jesus of Nazareth, and she died anyway. He's got nothing left. And Jesus says this, my translation, I got this. Just believe. Read the story for yourself. Don't you just love when Jesus puts all the doubters out of the house? Too cool. And oh, by the way, Jesus heals his little girl. 3 radicals. 1, the Son of God. No doubt the greatest radical ever. The other 2 are normal, everyday people at the end of their rope. That's where you find radicals. Putting their faith into action in the person of Jesus Christ. Radical faith. Now there's 2 things to remember here, and this is very important. It's not a matter of whether or not you have faith. It's a matter of where your faith is placed. And it's not a matter of if we can do something. When we align our faith with the will of God, then I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Oh, yeah, that was said by another radical, Paul, in Philippians 4. Misplaced faith is fatal. Would you place your faith in Jesus Christ today? After all, he gave you that faith in the first place. You see, Hebrews 12 says, he is the author and finisher of our faith. It's not your faith. It's his. Put it to work. Ask him to come into your heart today. That's why it's there. Next time, from the carpet.